Just on the dot, good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very critical session of our African Climate Summit 2 event. We are glad that you have managed to choose and to come here. I really appreciate that. We want to make sure that we have your contact, so there is a registration form being circulated so that we can keep in touch with you. Our interaction is just starting, but will continue. But now I have the honor to facilitate this side event and to kick off. I'll call on Dr. Bekele Shiferau, the Global Program on Sustainability Manager from the World Bank, Washington. Dr. Bekele, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Such a great pleasure to be here, and welcome to our event as a development bank. And I hope that we will all be enjoying this particular session on natural capital. So, as an introduction to the very interesting discussion and panel, especially the panel discussion that will follow from this, I just wanted to say a few words about what we do at the Global Program for Sustainability on natural capital, and the GPS's report on evaluation and integration of natural capital into decision-making processes globally. We operate globally. Africa is, of course, a very important focus area for us, but we work globally. And we are trying to support countries in terms of valuing and integrating natural capital into decision-making processes, both in the public policy space and also in the financial markets. So first of all, I think it may be just a bit of introduction about also what natural capital is. It's probably not a new term for many of us, but also just in terms of kicking it off, I think natural capital usually is conceived as a stock of renewable and non-renewable natural assets, including biodiversity and ecosystem services that provide a flow of economic benefits to people, what we call ecosystem services. And natural capital is a foundation that supports economic activities, globally. And about half of global GDP itself actually depends on natural capital. Natural capital is a foundation which supports economic activities across sectors. And like produced capital, like this building, roads, facilities, buildings, etc., factories are produced capital. And also like human capital, including knowledge and skills, natural capital is a productive asset, critical for economic well-being, and also it's essential for life on the planet. So let me just say a few words also on why nature or natural capital in a narrower sense matters, or that it's macro-critical, especially in the context of Africa and in the context of also climate change that we are discussing here. So renewable natural capital is particularly relevant in low-income countries, where it accounts for about a quarter, about 25% roughly, of their total wealth, national wealth, compared to about 10% in lower middle-income countries, and less than 1% in high-income OECD countries, for example. From this, you can see how vital renewable natural capital particularly is for low-income countries. Renewable natural capital is also the most critical asset for tackling climate change. And nature and climate are highly interconnected and interdependent, and climate change is one of the key drivers of nature loss. And also nature loss as a result also, and loss of natural capital amplifies the impact of climate change. So this is a strong interdependence, threatening financial stability, perpetuating poverty and inequality, and exacerbating as well health and other human well-being impacts. As a result, especially in African context, many African countries exhibit high levels of dependence on ecosystem services through agriculture, for example, through forestry, fisheries, and also associated value chains. And these are very large, significant portions of national economies and GDP in many countries, including also employment, jobs and employment in African context. So GPS research, past research also showed us that in the context of sub-Saharan Africa and also in South Asia, the collapse of ecosystem services, loss of nature, could result in loss of about 10% of GDP annually by 2030 in Africa, and about 7% of GDP by 2030 annually in South Asia. So you can see how important natural capital depreciation and degradation can be in terms of really what it means for economic growth and development in Africa, in the context of low-income countries and middle-income countries in Africa and South Asia. Despite these interdependencies and vulnerabilities to nature-related risks and impacts, the loss of natural capital and ecosystem services is not always reflected in the decision-making processes in many countries. Nature services are either non-priced or underpriced at best, and often neglected in decision-making processes. This is very important, this challenge. And this leads to degradation of natural capital in terms of deforestation, for example, land degradation, pollution, and so forth, which actually results in market failure. And of course, GDP might be growing as you may be depleting natural capital and natural resources, but growth that destroys natural capital cannot lead to sustainable development. I think that's very important to emphasize as well. There may be a short-term growth in the economy as reflected in GDP, but GDP really grows doesn't really measure sustainable development, and the environmental damages that result from loss of natural capital are not integrated into GDP measures. So grows by itself without integrating natural capital into decision-making process, that cannot lead to sustainable development. So GPS works to address these important challenges through technical and financial assistance to developing countries, helping them to value and integrate natural capital into policy-making processes and programs. Together with our partners, we work with many partners around the world. GPS has supported pioneering innovations at global, regional, and country levels, developing different types of tools for measuring and valuing natural capital, metrics for measuring, going beyond GDP, for example, in terms of assessing the economic progress, its implications for sustainability, and methodologies for advancing valuation of natural capital accounting. We work using the United Nations System of Economic and Environmental Accounting, what's called UNCEA. We have been working, for example, together with UNSD in many countries in terms of implementing this approach and methodology to integrate nature and natural capital in decision-making processes. GPS has supported over time nature mainstreaming efforts in over 40 countries, several in Africa, including Ethiopia, our host country here, one of our core implementing countries in Africa. And we have also Zambia, we have worked in Uganda, we have worked in Rwanda, and some of these colleagues, senior policymakers, are going to be represented in the panel discussion that will follow this introduction. GPS has also supported the creation of the Africa Natural Capital Accounting Community of Practice, which we have been supporting and financing for the last 5 years. And it has played a very important role in terms of advancing natural capital approaches and natural capital accounting and measurement and evaluation at a country level, at a regional level. And the good news is that we have now reached agreement with the African Development Bank so that our AFDB would be able to actually host the natural capital accounting community of practice in Africa, and they will make that statement today. So the integration of nature into decision-making process is also particularly relevant in the context of Africa for accessing capital markets at low cost. As you know, many debt-ridden countries in Africa really are asking and making efforts in terms of getting access to low-cost borrowing from capital markets, and natural capital actually could make significant contributions in terms of lowering the cost of borrowing for these countries if data and evidence actually could be compiled. This is because environmental degradation, as I said earlier, materially affects the economic fundamentals and willingness and ability of countries to be able to service debt. So this is why several development partners today are also making calls in terms of integrating natural capital into debt sustainability analysis, and in terms of determining as well sovereign credit ratings for borrowing countries. So natural capital measurement data has a very important role to play there too. So this, however, requires, as I said, concrete evidence and careful analysis of transmission channels on how natural capital materially affects macroeconomic fundamentals and its implications for debt sustainability in the context of specific countries. So in terms of closing, based on this few remarks, introductory remarks for our session, we emphasize that this and a few other examples demonstrate the gains from measuring, valuing, and integrating natural capital into policy decision-making processes for enabling and incentivizing resilient, climate resilient and sustainable development in the African context. And we look forward to a very important discussion that will follow. And thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bekele, for that welcoming remark, introduction to what GPS is doing across the African continent with many partners. I now have the honor to invite one of our key partner institutions, represented by Mr. Fred Kabanda. He's the divisional director at the African Development Bank. African Development Bank, as mentioned earlier, is co-organized this side event, and we have been partners in advancing and mainstreaming natural capital accounting in many of the African countries. Fred, the floor is yours. Official remarks.
Good afternoon. I stand here to really add my voice to the World Bank in emphasizing the importance of natural capital to Africa's development. The African Development Bank prioritizes natural capital. We have emphasized the aspects of natural capital in our current 10-year strategy, which runs from 2024 to 2023. And in order to operationalize this strategy, this year, the bank approved a natural resource action plan with a pillar number 2 on valuing natural capital. We also recently started a flagship initiative on measuring the green wealth of African nations. In this research flagship says, but we remain poor. This is not sustainable. 2, Africa is still lagging in the implementation of the natural capital accounting frameworks that could be used to re-index GDP for African countries. So this aspect of the frameworks, we see we remain lagging in systems of environmental economic accounting as well, which is being implemented by 16 countries, and they are at different levels. The best level is where we only have 5 countries which are compliant and disseminating their reports. Further, we have observed that the value of GDP measurement depends on how robust the systems of accounts are in the countries. And so many African countries lag in this standardization of the SNAs, and this is leading to underestimation or giving inaccurate GDPs for many African countries. So given these challenges that we have observed, we have recently launched a project called Mainstreaming Natural Capital in African Development Finance. This will be running in 13 different countries within Africa, and the anticipated outcome is that the project will improve climate and nature-smart policies being developed, natural capital and biodiversity mainstreaming, as well as natural capital-based economic transformation. Now, at the African Development Bank, we value natural capital, and when we were approached to host the Africa Natural Capital Accounting Community of Practice, we gladly accepted. And so today, I would like to confirm and announce to you that the African Development Bank will take over from the World Bank in the hosting of the Natural Capital Accounting Community of Practice for Africa. Thank you. This aligns very well with the 4 cardinal points of our new president, Dr. Sidi Ould Tah, in emphasizing the decentralization or coming closer to the people we serve. And so our immediate next steps going forward will include activating or taking over the Natural Capital Accounting Community of Practice Secretariat, reviewing and taking the implementation of the Natural Capital Accounting Community of Practice Strategy and Action Plan. And to do this, we have put aside some funding, which I would like to say is not sufficient for the big job we would like to do. And so we will continue with resource mobilization strategies, working with you, the stakeholders, in order to be able to put to scale the implementation of the programs that have been initiated. I would like to conclude by emphasizing that continuous participation of the partners in the Africa NCA COP is essential for the long-term sustainability of this COP. This is what, without you, we can't succeed. I would like to thank you because I anticipate we are going to work together to move this cause forward. I cannot leave this podium without thanking the World Bank. You have done a good job. Thank you, and we look forward to continuing to work with yourselves in order to advance this cause. I look forward to working with all of you in order to develop Africa through natural capital. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred. You know, my eyes blew up and kept on smiling when he said, we have some resources. You know, when from a bank manager, when we have few or some resources, it means a lot for the countries that are engaged in. But again, he has reiterated that we are keeping on track to mobilize further resources, right? Thank you. I now have the honor to invite our next speaker. I think I failed to probably recognize today's session is led by champions of natural capital accounting. There are countries that have come a long way. There are countries that are beginners. But again, thanks to the GPS, thanks to FDP, UNECA, UNECA, African Union, I think Leah is on her way, but we had a number of partners, including the Stockholm Institute of Development, Environmental Economics. I had the honor of serving as a consultant to develop the strategies that Fred mentioned earlier, which is being launched today. And thank you for accepting to take the baby over. But we'll not leave the baby to you alone. We'll be together on board. Thank you. I have the honor to invite Valerie Hickey, Director of Global Climate at the World Bank. Valerie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Chair. And when you talk about champions, you've been one, and a really important one that we're all very grateful for everything you've done too. You know, it's been so nice to be here the last few days. So often when we talk about climate change, we talk about it from a position of fear of the future. And it's grounded. The data tells us there are things to be afraid of. Increasing drought and desertification, the slow motion misery that too many people are facing. We know on the other side of the ledger there's sudden shock events, the floods, the storms, and these are getting worse. And these all, of course, have economic knock-ons. Our country climate and development reports really try and localize some of that data to help us understand what's happening in countries. And across Africa, one of the shocking things that we've realized as we've dug into the data is the fear of the impact of climate change events on GDP, up to as much as 13% in the next 20 years. That's 13% fewer jobs, fewer GDP growth, less well-being. These numbers translate into people's lives and impacts on them. So quite often in climate change, that's what we spend our time on, thinking about the terrible things. But what I've heard here in the last few days is a good news story. It's about recognizing that climate change is not just a threat, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to modernize, to build competitiveness and productivity, to use new tools and new approaches, to accelerate development, and to move, particularly in Africa, from an aid model to an investment model. Africa doesn't need a handout. You all know that. There are times you need a helping hand, we all do. But what's exciting about natural capital accounting, what's exciting about the community of practice that we are so proud to hand over to AFDB, we will co-parent, but we're so excited to hand off, is that it's about countries providing peer support across this continent. You don't need experts from other countries, you have experts here. And I have to say, natural capital accounting is at the heart of how we're going to go from an aid model to an investment model, from climate change as a threat to climate change as an opportunity. Because it is the heart of the new data for decision making, where countries in Africa and all over the world are environmental well-being. Because we know that's how it used to be. The 20th century paradigm for so long was grow now, clean up later. Let's put the economy first. Didn't work for an awful lot of people, didn't work for an awful lot of countries. Then in the 1990s, we had the Rio Environmental Conventions. And all of a sudden we realized that economies are dependent on the environment. They're dependent upon nature. Dr. Schiffer all gave us the numbers. But sometimes we overreacted. And we introduced ideas like fortress conservation and asked rural communities to forgo their economic growth and development to save the environment. So again, we were asking people to make a choice, this time to privilege the environment over the economy. Before that, it was put economic growth first and environment last. Today, there is a new economic paradigm, and its birthplace is here in Africa. It's about not having to make that choice. And natural capital accounting is how we do that. It's how we move past doing green projects to build green economies. And you don't have to take my word for it, because we have the birth mother and fathers with us on a panel. You're going to hear from the men and women who have successfully translated what are incredibly sophisticated concepts into everyday decision making in their countries. And so we're going to have the panel come and talk to us about success. How did it work? What were the ingredients to make it work? We're going to talk about how when natural capital accounting is actually implemented, it makes a difference. And talk about what some of those differences were, why decisions were made differently, and how it helped navigate so that it wasn't about environment or economy. It was about recognizing that if you want to grow fast, you grow green. And we're going to talk about some of the challenges, because nothing's perfect, nothing is easy. And so I'm extremely proud to invite to the stage, honestly, not just champions, but men and women who have done more to actually do the hard work of implementing natural capital accounting than anybody else. Let me start, if I can, with Senior Advisor Dr. Claudine Ouera in the Office of the Prime Minister in Rwanda. Please, Dr. Claudine. I'd also like to invite Assistant Commissioner Dr. Sam Mugume Kuju from the Ministry of Finance in Uganda. Please, Dr. Sam. I would also like to invite Assistant Director Ms. Banji Ngandu from the Ministry of Finance and Planning in Zambia. And His Excellency, the State Minister from the Ministry of Planning and Development in Ethiopia, is right now on another panel, and we're hoping he's going to be able to get off it quickly enough to come visit, so he'll join us when he gets here. One thing I do want to point out about this panel, and I say this very proudly, they're not from ministries of environment. These are men and women who sit in the most powerful offices in their countries: Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Planning, and Prime Minister's Office. And so, Dr. Claudine, if I can start with you. How did you make natural capital accounting such a success in Rwanda? Institutionally, what were the ingredients that made it work? Do we have a microphone? And we are, by the way, going to have some time for questions. So as you listen, or as you have your own thoughts on this, we're going to open up in a little while. Dr. Claudine, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Valerie. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you again, moderator Dr. Valerie, for just being here for us. And thank you. I also want to thank the World Bank Group Global Program for Sustainability for just convening this session and inviting us as well. So just focusing on your question, Dr. Valerie, if you allow, maybe I may need to start with the background just to tackle this process of institutionalizing NCA. So as maybe most of you might know, just Rwanda was one of the pioneer countries by implementing the natural capital accounting, and this came from a strong commitment in 2012 from the Gaborone, where a number of African countries committed just to integrating natural capital accounting into development planning. And from that period, it was high-level commitment. And from that period in 2014, with the World Bank support, where wealth accounting and valuation of ecosystem services, and the global program on sustainability. So Rwanda, started this process of developing the account, and through wide consultations, and where leaders sit together just to understand what kind of questions Rwanda is trying to respond. And at that time, land and water and mineral were really found as key as just an account to start with. So we developed the land account, the water account, the mineral account, and later on the ecosystem accounts as well. So just to come back to your question toward this process of institutionalizing the NCA, first of all, there is a difference between the time natural capital accounting was not yet developed and after the accounts were developed. Starting by the use of the natural capital accounting, result from the account, first of all, with technical assistance with the World Bank, we produced the policy brief that informed number of policies. And this led also just to support us in implementing number of policies and strategies. When it comes to the land account, information from the land account were used just to revise our national land use master plan. And for the water account also, we also redesigned and just updated our water resource master plan as well. So from the water account, it was really a mixture of things, and we used also from the water account, we were inspired, and we've been able just to establish what we call the Water Resource Board. It's an institution that's really designed to make sure that Rwanda come up with sustainable water resource management. And then when it comes to the ecosystem accounting, recently, through, again, World Bank Global Program on Sustainability, Rwanda was able just to initiate a work. It's work towards just having this green GDP as it was highlighted. We had this study on environmentally adjusted macroeconomic indicators, where some of the information informed our GDP. And I totally agree with the person from the African Development Bank. Definitely this is the way to go, because with the current system of national accounts, we are not sure that we have really standard things. And if we want to move toward this system of environmental economic accounting, then we need just to apply the NCA to make sure that we inform our GDP and to make sure that we capture the total wealth of our nation as well. So towards this process of institutionalization, Dr. Valérie, as you might remember, of course, in the beginning, the World Bank was there, but in 2019, the World Bank I can't say that they moved away, but they continued to support us, but Rwanda took the full ownership of national capital accounting by creating a natural capital accounting unit under the National Institute of Statistics. And we have this unit that's in charge of producing the data and to coordinate other institutions as well. And something else I forgot to highlight, at the beginning, NCA was under the Ministry of Environment. But since Rwanda understood very well that implementing the green economy is not only a business of the Ministry of Environment, it should be an integrated planning. So the cabinet decided just to move the natural capital accounting program under the Ministry of Finance, and through the National Institute of Statistics for statistic production purpose and for integration purpose as well. So this is how we came with this institutionalization process. I can say that we have reached our goal. We are still working on a way just to be able to improve the way we do things and the way we collect the data. So, of course, one of the questions that NCA came just to respond was just to consolidate, to put together that information that could inform the system of national account. This is what the statistics now is trying to do, of course, by building capacity and by putting the required staff and the required expertise. And we thank, again, the World Bank Global Program on Sustainability for additional resources just to help us for the capacity building purpose as well, and for the required expertise of being able just integrating this information into our macroeconomic framework as well. So I think it's under process and they were moving toward the right direction. And maybe I can say the next after, if you allow. Yeah.
No, thank you, Dr. Claudine. You know, it is a work in progress, and I think this idea that natural capital accounting requires patience. It can't all be done at once. You started with some accounts. It can't be done overnight. It takes a long period to build up. But Dr. Sam, I want to ask you, because the other two issues that Dr. Claudine raised as being keys to success for integrating natural capital accounting, political will and institutionalization. And Uganda has done lots of this. How? What were the keys to success in Uganda?
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here as usual and to talk about natural capital accounting. Being a statistician, really, this is very interesting. And I was highly intrigued by the remarks from both of you three, really, and at the different times, and you know, what you talked about and the thinking before. Because at some point, you know, would say natural capital account has been here for a long time. And indeed it has been because people were doing research. But the times the way, in a short time, they were explained it, Dr. Barre, it was very clear. Because there's a time when we were doing research to tell people that we're going bad, things are getting bad, and then to make choices. Yeah. But for now, really at this moment, that's the right time for us to look at development and environment and conservation together. And the natural capital accounting comes strongly. And I'm happy that we're discussing this. I'll go straight to your question. You know, there was political, that's number one, because this is embedded in the Constitution. And our roadmap is not very different from what Honorable, I remember the other title, yeah, but I'll still call it Honorable. We called it, and it's the same roadmap. So the Constitution clearly brings in this. And there was the president at the high level and the ministers were all, you know, when we started discussing development, conservation, environment management, and then looking at how climate change was affecting us in terms of droughts and the loss of natural capital. Because as usual, when you're using system of natural accounting, you know, SNA, you're looking at extraction as addition to GDP. And that's what we're doing, charcoal burning. And we're like, look, we're missing a point here. And everybody realized, yes, we're missing a point. What are we losing? And can we estimate this? So it came out clearly that this was necessary. And again, we were lucky that still we had a National Statistical Office, Uganda Bureau of Statistics. And one of the mandates of Bureau of Statistics was to produce, you know, numbers on natural capital. Yeah. And so this came in really right at the time. And what we did that was strong, we moved away from Minister of Water and Environment and moved to a multi-sectoral, you know, a multi-ministerial, and we formed what we call a technical working group, led by Minister of Finance, led by National Statistical Office and National Planning Authority. And then we had other Minister of Water and Environment, you know, National Environment Management Authority. A number of agencies came together. So this committee basically was a technical committee to gather data, because data was almost everywhere, and to put it together. That's number one. Number two, to make sure that we come up with a strategic national plan for natural capital accounting. And that was very, very critical, because it has started informing us on what to do at that moment and going forward. And definitely the partners getting advice from everybody, experts coming to join us and talking, and we produced our accounts. So that was we produced the accounts, we looked at them, and the basic thing we did, which was very clear, we looked at the National Statistical Office as generators of this information, because by the mandate, they have that mandate to produce natural capital accounts. And we said, are we going to stop here? No, it has to be used. So the users are in Ministry of Finance, and we made them capacity building to understand what to do, how to put them in the models, how to build the adjusted macroeconomic indicators, you know, reports, and we're doing that. And then we looked also at the other sectors. Minister of Water and Environment, what can you pick out from here? So we kept, and we still meet. We still have that technical working group moving up to now. We kept meeting every month, but now we've changed. We meet every quarter. And we're discussing modern natural capital accounting. But the figures are telling us, we keep there, say, we have the figures, what are we doing? And when we would vote before publishing, because the National Statistics Office is in charge of publishing these accounts, one, as a committee, would look at the accounts first and say, is this okay? Then we would reference with other countries. We move to the Netherlands, the statistical offices that are really and we reference and peer review and then publish our accounts and we can be able to use them. So that helped us. Now, lastly, proper institutionalism now. The Uganda Bureau of Statistics, we have like Honorable Said, I'll keep calling her, please accept. Like he said, we have a unit in charge of environmental statistics, and this is where natural capital accounting sits. When it comes to Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, in the macroeconomic policy department, we have a unit that is in charge of macroeconomic modeling, and here we have the use of these numbers, and that's where it sits. Also in Ministry of Water and Environment, we have also sectors and units that we work with directly. I hope I'll get an opportunity to talk about what we are doing with this, because we are working with them also to develop models using natural capital accounts, and it has helped us. I want to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sam. And I have to say, emphasizing this idea that natural capital accounting is a means to an end. It's not just producing the data that matters, it's how it's used. And at the end of the day, that use depends on trust, because the speed of that use depends on trust. And that trust, as you said, is built from sitting with your counterparts, making sure that they believe the data is credible, whether it's in the macroeconomic modeling team, whether it's in the Ministry of Water, wherever it is. And having that consistency of meeting is so incredibly important, and it's helped with the institutionalization, which I think is a great key to success that we're hearing now from both Dr. Sam and Dr. Claudine. If you'll forgive me, I do want to take advantage of the arrival of our most honored guest, His Excellency Mr. Bereket Fashastian Tesfamarian, forgive me, sir, who is the State Minister in Ethiopia's Ministry of Planning and Development. Please, Your Excellency, if you would like to join us. And we've just been talking, Your Excellency, about use. And certainly in Ethiopia, the Green Legacy Initiative, which builds on the ambition to plant 40 million trees. Not just plant them, it's not a tree planting initiative, it's a tree growing, a jobs growing, an economy growing initiative. And it's been part of restoring over 4 million hectares in Ethiopia. How has natural capital accounting played a part in doing that?
Okay. Good afternoon. Apologies, I was in another engagement and it took me longer than expected. So I would like to ask your apologies. Welcome to this important session. As outlined by the moderator, and as Ethiopia is investing significant amount of resource to green its economy through different initiatives, and one of the initiatives is the Green Legacy Initiative, which we have been implementing it for the last 7 years. As you all know, so far we have managed to plant 47 billion trees across Ethiopia. This is not only about planting trees, but it's also highly related with improving our agro-food system. Most of the tree seedling not only focus planting trees, but also replacing coffee trees, as well as different horticulture products, and also various trees which have economic implication in terms of further enhancing our timber industry and the like. Saying that, what is different in implementing this Green Legacy Initiative is the government has been allocating resource and also improving how we do it through generating evidence across level of government, especially as this initiative requires sustained effort. Various initiatives were, aligned with evidence that we generated from across government. In that regard, the role of natural capital account is very, very relevant. As we have already started, my colleagues may have already, informed you about our status. We have managed initially, at least, in fact, we are latecomer, but we have managed to come up with land account, which has showed us what's happening on our utilization of land for various purposes. What we have observed from the first land account is, our Green Legacy Initiative has, contributed to the enhancement and the increase of land which is covered by forest. And we have been able to confirm through our land account, as it is also aligned with what we are implementing for the last 7 years. We've seen significant improvement in land which is covered by forest. In addition to that, we see significant opportunity, especially from natural capital account, as it evolves and cover other accounts. It will provide us a mechanism to further, leverage what we have achieved already in terms of planting trees. For example, as this initiative will enable us, to reduce emissions significantly, there is a significant opportunity to leverage climate finance by showing that how this is contributing to sequestration of carbon. In addition to that, as the natural capital account further, enhance it, we see significant opportunity to utilize it for rationalizing our payment for ecosystem. As we have already established the legal framework, the natural capital account will play a significant role. It will also, support our other restoration efforts. We have different programs supported by partners, which also highly related with the Green Legacy Initiative. That will provide us a mechanism, to further see what impact is happening through implementation of different programs. Overall, although we are in the infancy stage of, establishing natural capital account, as we are determined to take it forward and further, strengthen it, we see significant opportunity for the utilization of natural capital account for different policy making, including the Green Legacy initiatives and also sustaining what you have been implemented in other programs. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Minister. And, it is so nice to hear from a state minister, from the Ministry of Planning and Development, not the Ministry of Environment, talk about the significant importance of natural capital accounting and how it has made a difference. It's helped rationalize decision making. And I think that's so incredibly important, given that decision making is what governments do. And it's what ministries of finance have to do on behalf of the entire country. And so, State Assistant Director Benji, I wanted to turn to you. Why are ministers of finance and ministries of finance so interested in natural capital accounting? What has helped in Zambia, for example, make it a tool that has become useful and used?
Thank you so much, Valerie. Just to give a brief background of where we are coming from with the development of the NCA program. We started undertaking this program as far back as 2017. That was during the WAVES program, and currently we are still receiving support from the World Bank Group under the GPS. So far we have developed 3 accounts, that is the water, forest, and land account. Under the current support, we are updating the 3 accounts and also developing the ecosystems account, as well as the modeling too, where we would want to integrate the environmental statistics into the systems for national accounts. And then coming back to your question, from the data that we have collected under the NCA, particularly under what we have noticed is that the data under the NCA accounts, they have really enhanced evidence-based policy as well as investment decisions. For instance, we use the NCA data to inform the pillar number 3 of the 8th National Development Plan, which we are currently implementing, and this pillar relates to environmental sustainability. Additionally, we've been using data from the NCA accounts to aid implementation of a number of sectoral policies, as well as monitoring the implementation of the policies, as well as reviewing the policies. Some of the policies that we have actually developed and implemented with the assistance of the NCA data include the National Land Policy, we have the Water Policy, we have the Forest Policy, we have the Zambia Climate Change Policy, as well as the National Adaptation Policy, just to mention but a few. Additionally, the same data that we have collected and currently updating, we are using it to set priorities under the formulation of the 9th Development Plan, which is currently underway. Additionally, I would also like to indicate, Valerie, that the data that we have collected has really helped to also monitor the indicators of the SDGs, particularly relating to water and other environmental related indicators. And then maybe coming back again to your question with the same use of data. On the investment side, we noted that the data that was generated under the water account had indicated that there was apparently an increased demand of the water resource over the years. And this one actually was causing, threatening actually the availability of the resource. And to arrest this situation, the same data from the water account, they helped us to come up with policy recommendations to manage the demand of water. And this was done through the introduction of licensing fees, as well as introduction of other regulations to manage the demand. It also recommended for the increased investment in the sector, because it was noted that there was a lot of leakages and wasting away of waters right from the water sources to the end users. And therefore, the policy recommendation was to migrate actually to cost-reflective tariffs. Thank you.
Assistant Director, can I ask you a quick follow-up on that? Because these water accounts are something now every single panelist has talked about. They're so important, and water, of course, is to adaptation what energy is to the mitigation agenda and climate. It's everything. There's too much of it, there's too little of it. How does your ministry, the Ministry of Planning and Finance, work with the Ministry of Water and the various ministries who regulate water use to make sure that they're also making use of this data in their own sectoral planning strategies?
So what we have actually to control the usage of water, we have the regulated authorities that have been established to ensure that there is no over-abstraction of the water resources. Currently, we do have what we call the Water Resource Management Authority, which is the apex body when it comes to the regulations of water resources.
No, thank you. That's extremely helpful. I wanted to ask Dr. Sam, if I can. Uganda has done something very interesting in terms of biodiversity accounts, which we haven't heard about yet. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing in that space?
I will not go to biodiversity alone, but I will talk about our accounts, because
Please.
we've done really accounts of lands, we did the species accounts, but water accounts, and the last one was the monetary services account. So I'll speak against that broadly and tell you briefly also to add on how they've been helpful. But I'll take the chance also to tell you that what we did in Natural Capital and what we're doing here, the experience we got, we didn't only stop at Africa or in our countries, it went global. Because you remember, that's the period when we were looking at the experimental center framework for, but now it is system of environment economic accounting. The Statistical Commission approved it, and we're very, very involved in making sure that the SARE is approved, and our input was strongly heard. And the experience we are talking about here really helped us to do that. We've been called upon, some few of us, to also look at the update, which is really coming from our experience here. But going back to Uganda, the accounts and biodiversity accounts in general, one of the things that we saw, we were losing forestry. We're losing species in terms of numbers. And this the species account shows, the forest account showed this. And the question was about regrowth. What can we do? It helped us to design a project, which, the one in the Albertine Rift. And this was strongly, came from the data that we had from the natural capital accounting and the backing and getting the money to have this established, and it's running now. It's also helping with the monitoring of what we're doing in terms of forest restoration and species, species conservation, which is big, and this is greatly helping. But also there's another aspect which I want to talk about. The natural capital accounts really helped us in informing the National Development Plan 4 and National Development Plan 3, which we completed. Number 4 is now the one we have right now. And it's in program. Our plan is a programmatic plan, but it informed us to have one of the plans, 1 out of 18, which is more into environment and natural resource management, and natural capital comes in strongly. When you go in details to look at what it is, one of the indicators that we are following under that plan is the adjusted macroeconomic, adjusted net national income, and adjusted net national savings, which directly the figures come from the natural capital accounts that we've done, and including the monetary services account. So there's that information that we're getting, and we are following up on it. We've also used this data to build the environment matrices to inform the social accounting matrix, because the social account economy is going and what is going to happen. But without those matrices, it's very hard to put in the environment and climate change issues. So we've done this, and thanks to World Bank, there was a great support from World Bank, and we've done the models. Lastly, I want to relate the question you asked. We are working with Ministry of Water and Environment, and it's hard when it comes to justifying investments in forestry, especially using domestic financing, local financing, forestry, water, and usually we put the percentage is lower in terms of budgeting. 2 months ago, we worked with Ministry of Water to look at it, to develop a model to investigate the benefits of investing in forestry in terms of extension cover to the economy in terms of macroeconomic objectives. And this model was simple. We shopped with 10 billion Uganda shillings, and the results are very, very significant. It came out strongly. This report is on. We were lucky that as we finished that report, the Economic Growth Forum, which happened last month, was coming up, and we were invited to come and present these results. And the results were shocking to be, coming from the macroeconomist, and we were speaking about investments in forest, investment in water, resources, to make sure that we attain the 10 growth fold. We have a 10 growth fold. We're thinking of multiplying our GDP by 10 times in 15 years. And we're saying, if you can't do this, look here, the models are saying the opposite thing. And because of numbers, if we didn't have numbers, if we hadn't added the matrices that we have in the social accounting matrix, it would have been a very difficult thing. So there's a long way to go, and we're still going that way, and we're learning, but critical things are coming out of the numbers that we have. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, Dr. Sam. And I don't know how many of you know that Dr. Sam and Uganda are now co-chairing the Coalition of Finance Ministers for Climate Action. So to have somebody who knows natural capital accounting so well, has done it, this is again a great example of how Africa is leading the world and is actually going to be in a position to influence how other countries do this, so that this isn't just something that's done here and there, but done everywhere. Dr. Claudine, let me ask you a hard question, because you've been doing this for a long time, even though you're only 21. What hasn't worked? what have been the biggest challenges in terms of trying to institutionalize natural capital accounting?
Yeah, this is really tough and a hard question. I can say that, as I say, that we've not reached our goal. We still have a long way to go toward this process of institutionalization. But what was really most difficult in the early beginning was even just to convince other different institutions on the relevance of having NCA data. And at that time, of course, it was led by the Ministry of Environment, and even convincing the Ministry of Finance that natural capital account data might really be very helpful. And yet, they know that Rwanda aims to be developed and the climate resilient and low carbon by 2050, but translating NCA information into that goal that we aim just to have by 2050, it was a kind of, not a struggle, but it required really communication strategy, because we developed a communication strategy that enabled us just to ensure that all stakeholders are aligned. So this was the first most difficult thing in the beginning. And the next one, since the natural capital accounting came just to respond to these questions on scattered information, just to convince that all concerned institutions should produce data information on time to be able to feed into the account. This was also the most difficult, but I could understand the type of questions that they were raising. They would say, no, those are very technical things. It requires expertise. How do we really compile those information and do the type of analysis that will be needed just to extract from NCA data information a message that really translates into actionable things? And yeah, you see. And thanks to the World Bank support again that has been on our side, this technical assistance, of course, we managed that by establishing kind of a framework. We had this high-level steering committee just for ownership purpose to make sure that at high level things are really owned. And we had also this technical working group that had benefit from those capacity building and the training. They are still there, though we need to update those teams. So to make sure that toward this transition period, that we will be still having a team after the World Bank, left. So this was not easy, but as the one who was, though maybe I was at that time World Bank consultant, but I was the national coordinator at that time. You see, you had just to work with the government institution, government people, the technical working group, and the steering committee just to really make natural capital accounting their routine as well. And the third thing was when the cabinet decided just to move the natural capital accounting from environment to the Ministry of Finance. And fortunately, at that time also, I was under the Ministry of Finance and the Minister in charge of planning as well. So I was also emphasizing on the need just to integrating natural capital accounting into the macroeconomic framework. But fortunately, it was really adopted at high level, since even the cabinet area understood that it was really very important just to have natural capital accounting under the Ministry of Finance and the economic planning. So what I see as a challenge that's still relevant right now is the required data, the standard data that are required just to keep the momentum, to make sure that we have a good data to inform the system of national account, which brings me just to thank the African Development Bank that comes on board just to provide some additional resources and just to be able to upgrade those data. And for other countries, maybe ownership is very important, as I highlighted, because without ownership, it might be difficult even for institution hosting natural capital accounting to convince the government that natural capital accounting is among priorities and is a powerful tool just to help even mobilizing more on the climate finance. And proactively, Rwanda also saw that it might be important, since we, under the climate finance, we see an entry point, but we created a department on the climate finance that also work on natural capital accounting as well, under the Ministry of Finance as well. And you know, we have been really inspired by natural capital accounting a lot, because the time we developed the mineral account, for example, at the same time, the World Bank, remember that they helped us just to develop what we call the land use trade-off tool. And this was a tool that really helped a lot in approving, was taken into consideration among other things when they approve, they allocate concession to concessioners, just to make sure that any concession to a private investor also take into consideration environmental the environmental cost, because the tool help us just to assess, to do what we call the environmental cost benefit analysis as well. So I think this was a challenge, but still now I can say that communication and engagement strategy is really very important. And in the morning you highlighted something related to information asymmetry. You know, in the beginning, some of the stakeholders could not understand the relevance of having natural capital accounting. But now that it's really well integrated from the local to the central level, and at the local level into the planning side, we have what we call the district development strategy. Those are green district development strategy until the central level as well. And again, as I highlighted in the morning, we have also other institutions also helping, institutionalizing NCA, the Rwanda Green Fund as well. So natural capital accounting is helping also just we have developed what we call the green taxonomy as well, and natural capital accounting contributed a lot. And together with the climate and the nature finance strategy. So now the government of Rwanda is prioritizing just having the green investment. So we have now all the tools, and natural capital accounting was really the main tool that also helped develop the other tools just to be able to come up with a pipeline of green investment and the green project as well. So it's a long journey, but I still, with a strong commitment, with high-level ownership, I think all of us, we can make it. And once we get the required resources, yeah, things will happen, and we'll be able just to go toward the green GDP.
No, and I think the word relevance that you used is so important, and it's something I've heard echoed across the panel. Assistant Director, of course, when you spoke about having water accounts as one of the first accounts because water is so critical in Zambia. We've heard about in Ethiopia, it's about land accounts because land is at the basis of everything. And that means having to work with other ministries. It means translating the data. It means socializing it so that we can reduce that information asymmetry. And it certainly reflects that idea that what we're talking about is natural capital accounting as an endurance sport and a team sport. And State Minister, I wanted to come to you. We've heard a lot about how inside countries, including in Ethiopia, of course, that you have to work across ministries. It's not just the Ministry of Planning and Development, for example, or the Ministry of Finance. You have to work with the sectoral ministries because at the end of the day, it's also about impact. But it's not just internally. There's a role for regional collaboration. And Ethiopia has showed this, of course, by being so kind and generous as to host the Africa Climate Summit here this week. What do you think the role for regional collaboration is on natural capital accounting?
Thank you for giving me this question to me, because it's timely, especially to reflect how we as a region should do development, especially create regional integration for ensuring mutual benefit. Two things. In Africa, all of you know that how our borders are created is more, by and large, artificial, in which, similar people live across the border, where they share resources. As you know, if you see different national borders and territories, you find the same people living in different national territories. At the same time, secondly, by and large, African economies are highly dependent on natural resources. The predominant source of our economy is agriculture. So in that regard, account is very significant. especially we know most of our resources are transboundary, which transcend national borders. Natural capital account will provide us a mechanism to standardize data, to share experience, as well as to see what's happening in terms of utilizing our natural resource, so that it provides us a mechanism to garner support, as well as establish development programs and projects which transcend national border, which ensures effective utilization of our natural resource. This is in a broader perspective of how it will provide us a mechanism to create integrated development across the region. But at the same time, such kind of collaboration will also provide us a platform where we share lessons, as rightly mentioned by my colleagues here. Most of this issue is new to not only to Africa, but across the globe. How we use this mechanism as a yardstick to do policy is a new phenomenon for the continent. Sharing experience among countries within the region, as well as across the region, will be very important to ensure that appropriate lessons are learned, dynamism within the natural capital account method will be ensured, as well as expertise among countries will be shared to ensure that we use natural capital account for effective planning, policy making, as well as decision.
No, thank you, State Minister, and I think that's a fantastic way to describe exactly why the NCA community of practice across Africa is so important. And I want to thank again, of course, Dr. Kabanda and the Africa Development Bank for taking this forward. But Assistant Director Benji, I want to end with you on the panel before I turn for a couple of questions from the audience. What's the next thing you want the community of practice to focus on? What's the issue that you would like to hear about that can help you in your journey in Zambia and in the Ministry of Planning and Finance to keep building natural capital accounting?
Thank you so much, Valerie. And, I think my colleagues will agree with me on this panel that we have, for over the years, been depending on donor funding to advance such programs. What I would like to see is a graduation to a point where we are going to advance the NCA using our own resources. Additionally, when you look at the governance structures, there seem to be conflicting mandates between the Ministries of Environment as well as the Ministries of Finance. What I would like to see is a collaboration to drive the NCA agenda. Additionally, would like to see a situation where we are going to have building capacities among various experts in different technical working groups, insofar as a collection of environmental statistics is concerned. Because at the moment, I think we do not have a robust environmental statistics to inform or to integrate the NCA into the SNA. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Assistant Director. Dr. Kabanda, you have your top few things that you can bring through the community of practice. And Dr. Sam, I would say to you, through the Coalition of Ministers of Finance as well, there's a great call to action. I'd like to spend a few minutes to take a few questions or comments. And I would ask, we will, I think, be able to hand a microphone around, and would like to ask you, I'm going to give you 1 minute each, and I'm going to be really, really terribly rude. I ask in advance. I will stop you if you're speaking for too long, because we'll be kicked out of the room. So please, the gentleman in the very back, and then we'll move up through the front. I see 4 hands. We're going to stick to that. There's a gentleman. Can you put your hand up again, sir? Just at the back. Thank you very much. He's bringing you the microphone. And as you can see, this is natural capital accounting really is working. It's moving, it's changing. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much. My name is Abel Hailu Gabramariam. I came from the private sector, and that was really fantastic discussion out there. And I would like to ask 2 questions. Regarding the line with the visionary Lemat Rufat, that was initiated by His Excellency, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, which we can deeply appreciate. How is Ethiopia collaborating with neighboring African countries to advance joint resilience efforts in natural resource management? I would like to answer me those, His Excellency, Mr. Minister, and those neighboring countries' ministers also. And the next question is, how is Ethiopia working to systematically integrate natural capital, such as forests, water bodies, and soil holes, into its national and regional policies to strengthen climate resilience and sustainable development? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and it's lovely to get a voice from private sector. We had other hands up. Yeah, we have this gentleman. If you each speak to a minute, we'll have all 5 questions. And just so you know, then I'm going to give each panelist 1 minute to answer and just to pick any one question. So please, and you have 1 minute.
Yep. Thank you very much. My name is Matthew Ashpole from TreeAid UK. It's been mentioned a lot moving from aid to investment models, which, when contingent on things like national credit ratings, may hold a risk of leaving some vulnerable countries with low credit ratings at risk of not receiving so much investment. Are there any plans broadly by the bank and by its colleagues to support countries to improve this credit rating so that they're not left behind? And then more broadly for the panel, how does the panel broadly see indigenous peoples and local communities being involved in their key investment focal areas? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And it's all about domestic resource mobilization. It's not always about accessing international money. We have 3 more. Sir, there's a gentleman there. And then we have one in the row in front, and then we have a gentleman over here.
Thank you. This is Yilma from Brook, Ethiopia, working on animal health and welfare. This is a very timely issue. You know, Africans have untapped resource, so we need to depend on that. As you all know, that Ethiopia is one of the country with a lot of livestock, and I think when we say about natural resource, it also includes animals. And I am working on working animals, donkey, horse, and mules, and I'm now talking about the most neglected animal, but the most productive one, which is donkey. Do you know that in Ethiopia, 1/5 of donkey lives in the world? In the world, 1/5 of donkey lives in Ethiopia, and their contribution is very high in transportation, agriculture, and others activities. But you know, they are not well included in policies. As the study we have conducted with ILRI and GBAD, which is Liverpool University, $2.2 million of contribution, 2% of the GDP contribution for Ethiopia, they contribute for this. So, you know, whenever we work on this, and the contribution of livestock should be taken into account, and we really appreciate His Excellency.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Barakat, and we have already contact. And
I think it's a fantastic call to action, again, for the community of practice, not to forget livestock and not to forget the forgotten livestock who are parts of GDP. Sir, you have 1 minute.
I think it's about desertification, a desertified land, for example, that links different countries, for example, northern Somalia, western Somalia, northern Kenya, southern Ethiopia. There is a plant called moringa. The giant moringa is found in Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. The well-known is that of India. We have been doing a research by the World Bank. Dr. Mulugeta is my witness. we did an integrated, because every 5 years we evaluate every 3 in terms of economic, social value, tolerance to all odds, and public. So we selected that and compared, and we presented it in Ghana. That is where this Moringa will find superior over that. Moringa again is reclaiming saline land. Salinity is what brought civilization down. For the Sumerians, the rise in salt level in the soil profile brought down wheat yield, barley, and the civilization itself.
Thank you, sir. And I think
it's a lot of information.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, I really...
One important point, please. Grasses are, in terms of bank, I'm telling you.
But sir, I appreciate
grasses
in
trees withdraw grass deposit. That is what we see in the park.
Critically important. Thank you very much. The idea of making sure that different ecosystems are included and it's not just forests. Gunnar, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Gunnar Schulin, Director of EFD. And I would just like to cherish the fact that we are where we are today. Given the feeble beginnings in the 1990s, we've come a long way, and the institutionalization here is fantastic. I also know that the African Development Bank, their commitment to this runs deep. My question, given these policy institutes that you're setting up, which is excellent, don't you have any need for research anymore? Can you do everything by yourself? How about academia?
Excellent question, Gunnar. So what I'm going to ask, starting with His Excellency, the State Minister, you each have 30 seconds. Last closing remark. You don't have to answer everything. What's your key takeaway?
As we conclude this session, I think it's important to recognize the importance of continuing sharing lessons, as well as broaden the use of natural capital accounting for different policy making, especially enhancing the capacity of the public sector to utilize the output of national capital account should be further strengthened. In addition, we should also strengthen regional platforms to share experience and also utilize natural capital accounting for integrating our development effort within our specific eastern region as well as across Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Assistant Director.
Thank you so much. My concluding remarks is on the need to be inclusive, even as we are advancing the NCA agenda. There was a question on the involvement of the communities. It is a well-known fact, Valerie, that the people who are actually largely impacted by climate change are out there in our societies. And most of our livelihoods in Africa, they depend on the forests. Therefore, there is need, in as much as we are trying to find answers to the impact of climate change, we need to ensure that we bring everyone on board. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assistant Director. Assistant Commissioner.
Thank you. Research is needed. For example, our accounts stopped 2015. We are updating them to the current, and we need research. Please come. Both answers the ecosystem research and what you are doing on Moringa. This is what informs NCA. Without research, you cannot get the numbers. The other question I wanted to respond to is about the credit ratings. This natural capital accounting is very, very important. What we're doing right now, we are updating our debt sustainable analysis tool report. We put in the natural capital accounts, the numbers in terms of wealth accounting and the rest, and adaptation investments. We are going to produce 2 reports, one the standard report, also the parallel report, and we're working with this. So it's some work that can be done and is being done somewhere. We can share experience. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Senior Advisor, please.
Thank you very much. Just to tackle on the question raised by Gunnar, on the research, the evidence-based, yes, as we highlighted, natural capital accounting, producing those accounts require high-level expertise. And instead of hiring every time consultant, might not really be sustainable. So we might need just to create a kind of strong partnership with university and research institute to make sure that at least in terms of data generation and Bureau of Statistics, or National Institute of Statistics as well, through those good analysis. And again, yes, in Rwanda, for the case of Rwanda going forward, we're thinking of establishing a center of excellence for natural capital accounting. And it's in this alignment where we think that for sustainability purpose, research and evidence-based policy things, when it comes to natural capital accounting, sustainability matters a lot. So this is what I can say.
Thank you so much. And please join me in thanking a fantastic panel. And the men and women who are the champions, who are doing this 14 hours a day, every day. And as Dr. Shifra comes up to finalize, here are my 3 takeaways from the panel. Political leadership matters. It has to be institutionalized at the highest level, ministries of finance, not ministries of environment. It has to be in partnership. So it has to be across all ministries. There has to be technical depth. I can't count. That's 4. And the 5th, it's all about impact. Natural capital accounting is a means to an end, not an end in itself. Thank you so very much, Dr. Shifra. I hand over to you. You should stay here too.
I'll just say a few words, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Such a great pleasure again to be able to really have this fantastic discussion with this outstanding panel. So much has been said already, and Valerie already has summarized many of the points raised, so I'm not going to really take a lot of time to say anything new. But I think I just want to emphasize one more important thing. I think Valerie said that in the beginning. There is a new economic paradigm today about trade-offs. In the past, we thought actually that maintaining, conserving natural capital would have to come at the expense of actually economic growth and development. Today, that's not necessarily the case. And natural capital accounting and measurement can be a very important driver of that process of integrating natural capital into decision-making for faster, steadier, long-term growth that will also lead to sustainable poverty reduction. So that's critically important. Institutionalization, again, crucial. It's a long journey. It doesn't happen over time. These countries who have been leading the natural capital accounting work in Africa, they have started moving on the right direction. Some started earlier. They are on a path. And I think the lessons which we take home based on these experiences, which we have been also summarizing through our annual reports, etc., in GPS, is that data sharing and institutionalization is critical. It needs champions in terms of all of the leaders that we see here, but also departments integrating natural capital within the existing national statistical offices is important. And the governments also allocating resources into those is a critical step in terms of institutionalizing natural capital and environmental statistics into decision making. The next step is taking it from environment and statistics divisions to Ministry of Finance and Planning. And the next stage of the global program of sustainability, GPS 2.0, we are going to actively support integration of natural capital into central banks, finance ministries, and making sure that macroeconomic frameworks in each of these developing countries would be able to actually benefit and integrate natural capital into decision making. Finally, regional collaboration is key, as was already highlighted. Many of the natural resources that we are dealing with in terms of NCA, they cross boundaries, but also experiences from these countries are crucially important for many more. Africa has about 50 plus countries. We are working in only very few handful countries. There are many who can really learn and really move on the direction that many of these countries have already taken. And I think regional collaboration would be key. And we are facilitating this regional learning and communication and outreach. And there will be communication also Africa to Asia, but also and other regions and countries, but also within Africa, and we'll be very happy to support that. Thank you very much for everybody for participating and taking part in this discussion. Also many who are actually joining us online. Thanks everybody for being with us today.
thanks for the panel. Thanks, Valerie, again, also for the dynamism and all of the energy you have brought into this process. Very useful. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bekele. Again, I would like to thank Atul Barakat, who has taken from his busy schedule from one session to another. Thank you, Your Excellency. And the great panelists, on your way out, there's some lunch to pick on your way out. Thank you. I would like to recognize also Dr. Noah Innocent from the ADB, who has been with us in the Committee of Practice. I know the AU and the EC are also here, but thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.